Hello, welcome to the JH Motorsports solid short throw shifter video for the B8 chassis Audi A5, A4, S4 and S5 and also the Q5. We just wanted to bring you guys a little bit more information about our product and the differences from it and others and what are the shortfalls of the factory shifter. We're first going to start out with kind of a history lesson on Audi shifters. We'll start all the way over here with this shifter. This is from a 2000 to 2002 B5 chassis S4. As you can see, back then they were using rubber and plastic for the center pivot for the shifter as it's in the car like this. The issue we found when we first introduced our first shifter in late 2006 is this right here, and this one's actually in really good shape. You can see how much it moves, and over time it can get to the point where you could actually pull the whole shifter out of the car. We were finding that the current aftermarket shifters weren't addressing this, so that was an issue among with the rubber, and it had a long throw. So that was the big issue with plastic. It wears out, it gets loose, the parts are expensive. So that's a 2000 to 2002 S4. We also have a 2004 to 2008 B6, B7 chassis S4. This one's pretty wallowed out. This had probably only about 50, 60,000 miles on it. You can see there's a good amount of play. We addressed both of these cars obviously with our bearing design. So this is kind of the history of the shifters in Audis and what our shifter brings to these cars. So you have that. So that's what the norm was with these cars was the plastic wearing out, and the more miles you put on them, the more slop you had and the harder it was to drive. Then prior to us coming out with the solid shifter in late 2006, this is what your run-of-the-mill aftermarket shifter was. It was a steel or aluminum shaft with a steel or aluminum bottom base, and most were precision made pretty well, but the big problem was, this is from a 2000 S4, is that it reused all this plastic and rubber. So you spent all this money at the time, I think it was mid-200s, before we came out with our shifter, for basically a shaft that reused all the plastic and rubber that was wallowed out. Some companies actually recommended putting a zip tie in here, which was kind of a patch more than an actual fix. It seemed like a feeble attempt at improving it. There was also ones that had aluminum shafts. The ones with aluminum shafts also were prone to snapping off right here. So when our shifter came out in late 06, it pretty much changed the game and is the gold standard now for the B5, B6, B7 chassis Audis. S4s, A4s, all those different models, even the A6s, and we do really well. So we wanted to bring our same technology and our same design that the older Audi owners prior to 2008 loved so much, and we wanted to bring it to the new B8 platform for you guys. So let's get into a little bit more detail on the B8 platform stuff. Here's a factory B8 shifter from an A4, A5, S4, and S5. Around 2008, 2009 and up. And as you can see, Audi did change their design a little bit. They still have plastic pivot right here, but they don't have the rubber, which is a good thing. Once again, though, that's our concern. It's still plastic, it's going to wear out. So even if you shorten the throw with this basic shifter, over time it's going to get sloppier and sloppier and then be harder to ship. So you end up having to spend money on a factory shifter just to bring it back to stock. Another problem with the plastic is it makes it feel numb. Since you're isolating all this hooks to your linkage, this isolates it all with plastic, so you have a numb feel to the shifter, which is fine for comfort, but in a performance application you would like to feel the transmission at least a little bit. They also have some plastic and rubber down at the transmission as well, but that's always good to keep for the fact that you're not going to get a lot of vibration or noise. So that's where we came in with our shifter and got rid of all this plastic that we're worried about wearing out. But this is the factory shifter, non-adjustable. It's got the push down reverse right here, and it's got the plastic, which is our concern. So obviously built for comfort, not for performance, which most of you guys, if you buy a manual transmission, you want the car for performance. We have here, before we get into our shifter, we have Brand X. I think they market it as a shifter, but this is actually, all this is an extension. And basically what this part does is you unbolt this factory piece here, and then you bolt this onto it like that. So you just drop the pivot point down, and you shorten the throw, which is a good thing. You know, it works. It shortens the throw. It's got a great price. Our only problem with that is that then you're still stuck with the numbing rubber that doesn't allow you to feel the transmission as well. You know, if you don't get the feedback and feel from the transmission, it might be not as easy to catch gears. You also have the plastic that's probably going to wear out. So you might have a brand new car, you know, that's only a year old, and your shifter feels still pretty tight. What you're going to run into over time, like the B5, B6, B7 chassis guys, is this is going to get worn out. So either with a stock shifter or with this extension, over time, this will get wallowed out, and you're going to just have slop and play like you had with these older ones, where it's just got, you know, movement, and it's going to be harder to drive, and it's going to be harder finding gears. So this will be more of a temporary solution, not going to last very long, which works great since your guys' cars are brand new. But we found, you know, just from our experience, is the older the cars get, the more we sell shifters for those cars because of this issue with the plastic. And that's where our shifter shines, is over time and with age. And obviously it gives a lot more sport feel. Once again though, if you really insist, you like a numb feel, you like, you know, that the lack of connection between you and the transmission, then go ahead and buy this extension. It's relatively low cost. It'll shorten your throw, but over time, plan on buying another $150 shifter every 50 to 60,000 miles if you want to keep it nice and tight. So over time, the cost of this extension is going to cost way more than the JHM solid short throw shifter, which is actually designed to outlast your car. So now that we got those covered, let's get into the JHM solid short throw shifter. You can see a stark difference between the plastic here and our full metal bearing design, and we basically replaced all this with metal. So that's going to work really well. It's going to be crisp, clean, you're going to feel everything. We have an OEM type lower link that's adjustable, so we give you 2 adjustments, unlike the other piece. This is all steel with nickel plating, so it's going to pretty much last forever. And the lower link is all steel. It's going to have a lot more weight to it. It's going to be like a weighted knob, so it's going to smooth out shifts. And it's going to last, you know, longer than more than likely it's going to last longer than your car. And from what we've seen, we got shifters, you know, that are been released late 06, early 07 that show almost no wear. Also with our shifter, this is an industry exclusive as well. We're the only company doing this bearing here at JH Motorsports. We also give you 3 different springs with the shifter. By default, we ship it with a medium spring, which will probably have a little bit more tension to push it down for reverse. The reason we like that is our shifter's got a little more weight, so we give you a little more tension, so you have to push down a little harder to get it down for reverse. But what it does is it helps a lot. Some people have a problem if they came from a different car, is when you're shifting really hard, you might accidentally push the shifter down as you're shifting and it interrupts your shift. So we have the medium we ship it with. If that's a little too stiff, we have a soft that you can swap in. It's just 1 clip, or you can request the soft to be installed by default. And then we have a heavy spring. So for those who don't care that you have to press really hard to get it reversed, we have a heavy spring. So we have 3 spring adjustments for push down reverse. So we can tailor that so you can get the push down reverse super easy to push down, kind of hard to push down, and very hard to push down. And we have 2 throw reductions. This lower hole for the throw reduction is the most amount of reduction, and this is the least amount of reduction. Either way, these holes are still less than the stock pivot point. As you can see, if I line these up, you can see that the stock pivot point would sit about here. So we're good amount of reduction and even more reduction, which is usually going to put you at the 20-30% range, depending on if it's A4 or A5. And then the lower reduction will maybe get you around 40. It just depends. A4 and A5 and the S4 and S5 have slightly different shifters from the factory. They're all the same except for the pivot point's only slightly off. So the reduction changes will be different, but most people are going to like, you know, the maximum throw or this throw. So you usually know if you want a little bit of reduction, put it here. If you want a ton of reduction, put it down here. And we also bend the shaft. It's got a factory CNC programming ran, so the factory knob goes just on like stock. It installs from the top, so you do not have to worry about getting dirty under the car. You just do it all right through your center console. We have instructions for that. But that is basically what the JH Motorsports solid short throw shifter is about. It's about giving you feel and feedback, having crisp, clean shifts, and you know you hit the gear. You have a little bit extra weight, so it's going to help hit the gear. It's going to have a little more inertia. You have a bearing that's going to last longer than the stock plastic piece, and you don't have rubber and plastic isolating you. So that's the bulk of the JH Motorsports solid short. Now I'm going to show you both the JHM solid short throw shifter and the stock shifter, compare them, how they are apart. This is the major components here, which is mainly the shaft and then the pivot assembly for the shifter to pivot on. Let's look at the shaft first. Here's the stock shaft. You can see it's like it's a hollow steel stamped out, and it's basically encapsulated in plastic. If you look down in this hole, you can see the metal in there. It's completely cast in plastic and rubber. You have rubber isolation here, plastic. So ultimately, all you have is a metal shaft. You can see this pin where they keyed it in. You're ultimately shifting primarily with plastic other than the bottom link. And then here's the JHM shaft. As you can see, we keep the reverse notch, so our shifter functions exactly as stock. It's 100% steel, nickel plated, and it's going to have a lot more weight at the bottom, which is going to help kind of give you an inertia, a little swing to it when you're shifting gears. So it'll give you all the feel. You're going to feel the transmission. It's not to the point of vibration and noise, because you still have a factory linkage, but it's going to be a tremendous difference. And so far, everybody who has this unit on the B5 cars, B6 cars, B7 cars love it, and makes the car feel more performance oriented and sporty. And then the B8 guys that have already got the product as well, they're also really enjoying how much you feel the car, and it makes the car a lot more fun to drive. And also the adjustability is always a nice feature. You can have only a mild reduction or a more severe reduction, depending on what you like. Because obviously if you reduce it more, you're going to have less mechanical advantage. It might be a little bit harder to shift, but usually with our steel design and our weight, it's going to almost cancel that out. Versus an extension, you're doing nothing to change anything with the shifter. All you're doing is changing pivot point. You still have plastic with no weight. You still have plastic here. So that's why our shifter is able to be smoother, even though we shorten the throw. With these, there's no real added weight because this is lightweight aluminum, and it uses all the factory components that are going to wear out. Let's get into the pivot assembly. Here's the factory unit. It's a plastic ball, plastic insides, which slides onto here, and it's a plastic outer cage. And actually, it's so soft that I can actually push this thing apart. So you have a part you can push apart, pivoting for shifting your car. And it's okay for a while, but over time it actually wears out. And if you do some searches online, you'll find guys where theirs are so wallowed out, their shifters almost come out of the car, and some guys where they actually end up with piles of plastic shavings underneath. Especially if you drive it in road racing events or drag racing or more spirited driving, you're going to abuse these parts and they're going to wear out prematurely. And then, like I said, you're going to be paying $150 every so often to replace your shifter if you go with your standard shifter extension. So we have that, and we then have our setup, which is encapsulated in an aluminum base, so it drops in just like the factory assembly. Here's the factory base that everything fits into. So it drops into here just like factory. It's a nice tight fit. We even supply biscuits and a way to fasten it so it'll never come out. This one snaps in. But this piece right here, it's encapsulated aluminum. It's a precision fit. We have custom bearings made by a U.S. bearing manufacturer, and these are precision steel race, steel ball bearings, and it's going to last for years and years to come, and it's going to give you that extra feel and feedback that any performance enthusiast is going to desire. One more thing is, even though these are currently the only two options for the B8 chassis Audi, the S4, A4, S5, and A5, 2008, 2009 and up, we got the JHM shifter, and we got basically this little extension is currently what's available on the market. Traditionally, other companies who make shifters tend to do this as well. So at this point, there's nothing on the market, but by the time you see this video, another company might be making a complete replacement shifter like this, but they're going to reuse this for cost. It increases profits for them, and it also, allows you to allows them to make the product quicker, cheaper, and so get it to market faster. So if you're seeing shifters like this by the time you watch this video, that's fine. I mean, just remember, if you get this kind of shifter, if they become available for the B8 chassis Audi, you're going to have to worry about them reusing the plastic and rubber. Because at this point, so far in 2010, JH Motorsports is the only company in the world with this design on their shifters for all Audi all-wheel drive vehicles and front-wheel drive as well.